Good morning, world, and welcome to the Patriot Party Show. I'm Matt, your host, and I'm so happy to be starting off the weekend with all y'all guys and gals at the Patriot Party, where truth meets every corner of the news. We bring you unbiased news that spans general news, political news, world news, financial news, tech news, and more. We cover celebrity news, gossip, sports, new movies, and TV shows, making sure you stay up to date with all the latest entertainment. Join our America First movement where we put truth and the Constitution above all and provide unique insights and immersive content all in one place. You can find all information about our movement on our new website. Please check us out at thepatriotparty.us and support our cause. There's a link in the podcast description. Also, follow us on all our social media platforms to stay engaged. You can find these links by clicking on the description of this podcast as well. And don't hesitate to share your thoughts or topic suggestions. Thank you for supporting the Patriot Party as we unravel mainstream media BS and offer you a fresh perspective that's not affiliated with any political parties. So we have no agendas. Thank y'all so much for your support, because without y'all, we wouldn't be here. There's one thing this week that I really want to call out and I want to get off my chest before we start the show. And we have a great show, so please stay tuned and through my rant for just a few seconds. But I am so tired of everybody using and misusing the word fascism. I mean, I got called a fascist punk this week. And this word is being thrown around by people who don't even know what it means. Fascism equals violence and dictators. Our movement is about truth, the Constitution, and power to the people. Calling us fascist is literally anti-American. We are moving towards a non-violent generational change. The Patriot Party calls out the good, the bad, and the ugly from both sides. So no, to you all out there who do not know what fascism means, we are not fascist. We are far from it. Now to the show. Thank y'all for staying with me through that little rant, but I had to get it off my chest because I am so tired of seeing it across social media and hearing it on media. And it's people don't understand. But anyway, let's get to the show. We've got a great show today. We have a lot of news to go over. Really, really good show. President Trump said he was directing the Pentagon to send troops to Portland, Oregon to protect federal facilities, escalating his push to deploy military in U.S. cities. Trump said in a post on Truth Social on Saturday he was ordering Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to use the military to protect immigration and customs enforcement facilities, which he said were, and this is in quotations, under siege from attack by Antifa, a loose network of anti-fascism protesters that Trump recently called a terror group. It's crazy how, fascism equals violence, but you got these anti-fascists who are committing violent acts. It's so hypocritical. He also said, and I quote, "I am also authorizing full force if necessary," apparently referring to troops' authority to use weapons. Now, I don't know what all the fuss is because President Trump has full authority to send troops to protect federal property. They just can't engage in local law enforcement. So, per the Patriot Party principles, we do rule this constitutional. YouTube will pay $24.5 million to President Trump to resolve a 2024 lawsuit that claimed he was the victim of censorship when the site suspended his account following the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol by Trump supporters, according to federal court papers filed on Monday. YouTube's parent company, Google, would dedicate $22 million of the settlement toward the construction of a $200 million Mar-a-Lago-style ballroom in the White House, according to the settlement documents. which state that a nonprofit called the Trust of the National Mall is being tapped to finance the renovations. It's the latest settlement reached by a tech company sued by Trump in the wake of the Capitol riots. In January, Meta paid the president $25 million over Facebook's and Instagram's decision to suspend Trump after January 6th. Elon Musk, X, formerly Twitter, paid out $10 million over a similar allegation. Personally, this is on a personal note, it makes me really happy that social media companies like YouTube are having to pay out for censorship, because I lost a very large YouTube channel last year due to unwarranted censorship on materials that had cited sources within the government itself. I guess with all this money, Trump's also going to be able to build one heck of a presidential library that I believe is going to feature that 15-foot bronze Colossus statue that traveled the country during his campaign. The Trump administration is escalating its fight with Harvard University by starting a process that could make the nation's oldest and wealthiest university ineligible for federal grants over allegations of anti Semitism on campus. In a letter addressed to Harvard President Alan Garber on Monday, the Office for Civil Rights in the Health and Human Services Department said it's referring the university to a process called debarment. Now, I'm not real familiar with it with a college, but I know when a lawyer gets debarred or disbarred, I think it's disbarred, but debarred, same. It's lights out. So it does not sound good. That move could deliver the biggest financial blow yet to Harvard during its fight with the Trump administration, putting billions of dollars in jeopardy. Earlier this month, a Boston federal judge ruled that the government had to restore $2.2 billion in research funding to Harvard that the government froze earlier this year. Debarment, which essentially would declare the university ineligible to do business with the government, is another way the White House can seek to cut funds off. The moves come as negotiations between Harvard and the White House have reached an impasse. In the wake of the judge's ruling on September 3rd that the government had improperly cut off the research funding, according to people familiar with discussions. Now, this isn't inherently unconstitutional, but it must follow due process, a notice, opportunity to respond, and a valid legal basis. If the White House attempts debarment as retaliation or without proper justification, it could be challenged as arbitrary and capricious under the Administrative Procedure Act, or even as a violation of First Amendment rights if political speech or academic freedom is involved. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's going to really depend on, I think, the wording in which all this is done. FEMA is paralyzed. Disaster-torn communities are paying the price. That was the headline. St. Louis's tornado was months ago, but it's still waiting for hundreds of millions in federal recovery funds to arrive. It's part of Trump's plan to shift responsibility to the states and shrink the agency. Now, the U.S. Constitution doesn't explicitly mandate a federal disaster response agency like FEMA. However, once Congress creates such an agency and funds it, the executive branch is obligated to carry out its duties faithfully under the law. If FEMA is intentionally paralyzed or defunded in a way that violates statutory obligations, it could be challenged as a violation of the Administrative Procedure Act or separation of powers. If the delay in funds is politically motivated or selectively applied, it could raise equal protection or due process issues under the Fifth Amendment. Now, there was another article that came out that I did not include because I thought it was very subjective, very biased, But the way it was written, it was talking about how Trump was going after Democratic states and cities. He cannot show a pattern. It cannot look like it's selectively applied. What would make it unconstitutional? Discriminatory withholding of aid based on political affiliation, race, or other protected categories, ignoring court orders or statutory mandates to release funds, and retaliation against states or communities for speech or political position. So, Trump, you need to make sure you word this correctly. Wording is everything when it comes to the legality of things. Wording is everything. In a very controversial speech given by President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to senior military leaders at Marine Corps Base Quantico, September 30th, 2025. They said they were overhauling the DOD's Inspector General's office that is investigating, and this is speaking on Pete Hegseth, investigating him for creating a culture of, and this is quotations, walking on eggshells. So Hegseth said he was overhauling the DOD's Inspector General's office that is basically saying he's creating a culture of walking on eggshells. That, he said, has been weaponized, putting complainers and ideologues and poor performers in the driver's seat. I don't think he said anything wrong. Quotations: foolish and reckless political leaders set the wrong compass heading, and we lost our way. We became the woke department. But not anymore, he said. They are going back to enforcing fitness and appearance standards. And all the people on the left are fussing about this war on woke. But woke isn't what it used to be. It started in the 1930s for racial injustice. And then in the recent years, it was adopted by white liberals to push their ideological agendas and basically make 96% of the population conform to what 4% believe, which is in essence anti democratic. It's kind of funny since it's being pushed by the Democrats. Personally, I believe we should be on a merit-based system. And there should be standards when you are representing the United States of America, whether it be in the FBI, the DOJ, or the military. If you think about it, trying to go against the grain of a merit-based system is basically going against the grain of a capitalistic society, because capitalism is merit-based. Not to mention cross-dressing classes being offered at the military academies. What do we need to train officers on cross-dressing for when everybody is in camo? Personally, I miss the time when it was don't ask, don't tell, what you do is your business. Now, what I didn't like about the speech is the president's justification for using military force in American cities and the role he envisions for the newly renamed Department of War to play in domestic patrol. His comments mark a major departure from how previous presidents and civilian defense officials have spoken about civil military relations, and suggests Trump's relatively limited National Guard forays into American cities are the start of a new era. Listen, y'all, we have local law enforcement and the alphabet agencies for that. We don't need armed military personnel walking around our cities. And per the Patriot Party principles, we deem this in most cases unconstitutional. I completely agree with Trump on this next story. President Trump unveiled plans Tuesday to launch a government-run website dubbed Trump RX for consumers to buy drugs directly from manufacturers. And he said Pfizer, you know how I am pronouncing it, I think it's Pfizer, plans to offer some of its drugs on the site at a reduced rate. Separately, Trump said Pfizer would offer all of its drugs to Medicaid at a reduced most favored nation price, as well as introduce any new drugs to the U.S. market at the reduced prices. In return, the company gains a 3-year grace period to exempt it from national security related tariffs as long as the company invests in domestic manufacturing, the company said. And this is in quotations. And this is what I hands down agree with. The American consumers have been subsidizing research and development R&D costs for the entire planet, Trump said in the Oval Office, flanked by top health officials and Pfizer chief executive, Albert Bourla. I know that y'all have heard that the government has shut down. So government funding elapsed early Wednesday morning after the White House and lawmakers failed to reach a spending deal, triggering a shutdown that is expected to halt some federal services and put hundreds of thousands of federal workers on furlough. The shutdown could be more consequential than those that have happened in the past. The Trump administration and Trump administration officials have said they plan to use the shutdown to reduce the size of government, moving to cut jobs across agencies. That effort is already being challenged in court. Now, what air travelers can expect if the shutdown drags on. On Wednesday, the website of the Department of Transportation, including the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, posted an emergency notification banner noting portions of the agencies are currently in shutdown/furlough status due to a lapse in government appropriations. The Transportation Security Administration, TSA, noted on social media that an extended shutdown could mean longer wait times at airports. Air traffic controllers and TSA screeners are exempted from furloughs during a government shutdown, but they work without a paycheck until funding is restored. And I mean, how enthused can you be to work without pay? Now, this is in quotations. Over time, I expect sick leave absences to go up tremendously, said a former inspector general of the Department of Transportation. They told Forbes, adding that during government shutdowns in the 1990s, many employees misused sick leave to work a temporary job or look for another full-time job. So I believe if Trump can legally reduce the size of the government with this shutdown, that would be a great thing because this government has gotten to be an ill-bloated drain on the American citizens. But they need to do this expeditiously and get things reopened because, as you know, wait times in airports without this was already obnoxious. On Monday, President Donald Trump's Department of Education is beginning negotiations with stakeholders on the president's plans to change student loan repayment options and place new caps on borrowing. So, I believe this is a good thing. Student loans, they've gotten out of hand, which in turn has driven up the price of colleges tremendously. If this vicious cycle isn't remedied soon, I believe we risk creating a generation burdened by debt before they even enter the workforce. The promise of higher education is being overshadowed by financial strain. And if we don't take bold steps to reform the system, whether through tuition caps, loan forgiveness, or alternative education pathways, we will continue to see economic inequality widen and civic engagement decline. Education should be a ladder, not a trap. And the civic engagement is what really worries me, and we will speak on that later in this show. Elon Musk just hit a big milestone this week. He became the first person ever to be worth $500 billion. Y'all, he is going to be, and that is real time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time per. This was on Wednesday. Forbes real time billionaire tracker. He will be the first trillionaire, I do believe, and that is crazy. That is crazy, crazy money. It's unimaginable money. President Trump has declared that the United States is now at war with drug cartels, deemed by the White House as terrorist groups, giving legal rationale to U.S. military strikes on boats in the Caribbean Sea last month, according to a confidential notice the administration sent to Congress this week. Trump determined that the United States is in a non-international armed conflict with these designated terrorist organizations. That's what the notice said. It was sent to the National Security Congressional Committees and obtained by The Hill. The president directed the Department of War to conduct operations against them pursuant to the law of armed conflict. The notice adds, referring to Trump's new designation for the Defense Department. This is the quotations, the United States has now reached a critical point where we must use force in self-defense and defense of others against the ongoing attacks by the designated terrorist organization. I looked into this. It is constitutionally murky, but one of the biggest problems we see at the Patriot Party is a lack of transparency. The administration has not publicly named all designated terrorist organizations or provided detailed intelligence justifying the strikes. And this is frustrating lawmakers and fueling constitutional concerns. Just be more transparent. This next story is very concerning, and it speaks directly to the Patriot Party's movement. So a new poll came out. More Americans now agree political violence may be necessary to right the country. 3 in 10 people now say that Americans may have to resort to violence to get the country back on track, according to a new NPR PBS news poll. This study, it reiterates what a lot of us already know. We live in a dangerous time and we are on a precipice. The Patriot Party acknowledges that this country needs a reset. But this is a nonviolent grassroots movement to fix the problem at the root, not today's hot topic or what's on the news cycle. We believe in order to get generational change, we have to approach this from several different directions. As it sits now, the Patriot Party is challenging the political status quo with truth and constitution. We believe true change will start at the top and the bottom and meet in the middle. What I mean by this is not only do we believe we need an administration to go in and say, we are going to do everything humanly possible to put out legislation and policies that abide by the Constitution. But we also need to put some pressure on the legislative branch to stop passing unconstitutional laws. We're going to do this with a 3-prong approach. Right now, our movement is about awareness of media misinformation and political discourse. As our movement grows, we will not only be challenging them from the top, but also from the bottom with a nonprofit organization providing civic education. We were just talking about the colleges and a civic breakdown, but civic education to our youth so they understand historical documents and doctrine and know how to hold our politicians to a higher standard, one that matches the oath that they all took. We will also attack unconstitutional laws in federal court. Provide a voice to the people and tell these politicians, these career politicians, these people that think they're untouchable and don't have to answer to the people, that government grants us rights that they're not granted by our Creator as spelled out in the Declaration of Independence, just like the monarchy said back before the American Revolution. So we put pressure on the legislative branch and we start repealing some of these unconstitutional laws in federal court, and then basically tell them either fix it or lose it and start over and try to agree on it. We will then send a petition to put in new legislation to mandate all laws be put through an independent committee of non-governmental agencies to approve them as constitutional before they go into law. We the people. I've also got a very interesting statistic from a new poll. Do y'all realize that less than 1 in 5 American adults can name the 3 branches of government? And we're talking about smart people, and I know she's going to get mad for me putting her out there, but literally, my soon-to-be wife is getting ready to be a nurse practitioner, graduate as a nurse practitioner, and assist with an orthopedic surgeon with surgeries. But she had a hard time naming the 3 branches of government. She got 2. She didn't get 3. So we're not just talking about people that didn't get an education. We're talking about people that are still in college, advanced master's degree and doctorates. Don't know it. This is systematic and systemic, and we need to fix it at the root. This movement is about going to the root. Like I said, not today's buzzword, not today's news cycle, but the root for a generational change and a nonviolent reset to fix this country. So please join our movement of education and generational change. Now, before we move on to world news, I'd like to take a moment of silence for the victims in the Michigan church shooting and church fire. With a 20-point peace document, President Donald Trump secured Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's backing on Monday for a U.S.-sponsored peace proposal to end a nearly 2-year-old war in Gaza. But questions loomed over whether Hamas would accept the plan. Speaking at a joint White House press conference following a meeting with Netanyahu, Trump said they were beyond very close, and that's quotations, to a peace deal for the Palestinian enclave. But he warned the Islamist group Hamas that Israel would have full U.S. support to take whatever action it deemed necessary if the militants reject what he has offered. And then Muslim nations threw their weight behind the plan to end the war in Gaza, even as some Palestinians decried the proposal as a farce. Washington's European allies have urged Hamas to accept the plan, which Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he supported, as he warned the Palestinian armed group of more devastation if it did not comply. 8 Arab or Muslim majority nations said they welcome the role of the American president and his sincere efforts aimed at ending the war in Gaza. In a joint statement, they said they affirm their readiness to engage positively and constructively with the United States and the parties towards finalizing the agreement and ensuring its implementation. Then Trump sets a Sunday evening deadline for Hamas to agree to the Gaza deal, warning in quotations, all hell if they don't. And then I thought that was going to be the end of the story. And then Hamas says on Friday, because he releases that on Friday, Hamas says on Friday it was ready to release the remaining hostages in Gaza as long as certain conditions of a broader peace agreement were met, offering no clear position on other elements of President Trump's 20-point peace plan. I'll tell you, and if you've listened to my show, you know that I've called Trump out for several things I didn't agree with. And the thing is, regardless, there's always multiple paths to the same destination, and if he gets to the same destination, we don't have to agree. As long as actions speak louder than words, as long as he gets there. But I'll tell you this: if he gets peace in Israel and stops the Ukraine war, or at least moves it in that direction, and does all the other initiatives that he's working on, he may go down in history as a great president. Still too early to tell, but he's moving in that direction. At least this week he is. We started this story last week when Trump said that Ukraine could take back all its land. And I said anyone who had referred to Trump as Putin's puppet was contradicted by this statement, and actions speak louder than words. Well, the continuation of this story is the U.S. will provide Ukraine with intelligence for long range missile strikes on Russia's energy infrastructure, American officials said, as the Trump administration weighs also sending Kyiv powerful weapons that could put in range more targets within Russia. Watch out, Russia. Watch out, Russia. When Trump grabs something, it's like a pit bull locking a jaw on a bone. He is not going to let it loose, so watch out. In London, 2 people were killed and several injured in a ramming and stabbing attack outside a British synagogue, in what police described as a terrorist incident during the Jewish holy day of Yom Kippur, and I may have mispronounced that. I may have, and if I did, I apologize to everyone out there that's Jewish. The attacker drove a car into a group of people in the northern English city of Manchester just after 9:30 a.m. local time Thursday before getting out and stabbing a member of the public, police said. All right, so there's a little short story I got here in World News, and then we're going to move on. We got some exciting financial news today. Then we're going to move on. So there's a Nobel laureate, Marie Ressa, who warned AI-driven disinformation campaigns are eroding truth globally. And this is what I have to say to her. What about the disinformation campaigns that are being put out by mainstream media? Financial news. Business Insider's 5 stocks that are set to be the next big winner of the AI boom. We've got Broadcom. Year to date, their gains are 43%. If you want to take Business Insider's word and invest, their ticker is, and this is all caps, AVGO. AVGO. And every ticker I give you is going to be all caps. The second one is Palantir Technologies. Year to date, their gain is 137%. That's good money. Ticker PLTR. Remember, all caps, PLTR. Oracle is their third pick. Their year to gain is 70%. Ticker is ORCL. It's ORCL. Nebius, year to date gain, and this is crazy, 295%. NBIS, that's the ticker. NBIS, all caps. And then MongoDB, year to date, 31%. Ticker is MBD. MarketWatch also says 2 stock picks for long-term growth as people keep moving away from cash are Visa and MasterCard. A lot of hedge funds use this to stabilize their portfolios during periods of economic uncertainty and inflationary pressure, because Visa and MasterCard benefit from the global shift towards digital payments and have a resilient business model with strong cash flow. They're often seen as reliable anchors in volatile markets. As consumers continue to favor card and mobile transactions over cash, these companies are positioned to capture long-term growth, making them strategic assets for international investors aiming to hedge against currency devaluation and economic shocks. One of the biggest retirement saving perks for workers age 50 and older is about to get a new restriction. Starting next year, the extra catch-up contributions that those workers use to stow money in their 401k will have to go into their accounts after tax for high earners. The Internal Revenue Service issued final rules this month on a 2022 law, which set the threshold for a higher earner at more than $145,000 a year. That got me thinking. When I first read this, I got to thinking, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but this change, what it means is many workers will pay taxes on their catch-up money up front during high earning years instead of in lower earning years in retirement. The money will go into a Roth account where it can later be withdrawn tax-free. If I remember correctly, so this is what it got me thinking about. If I remember correctly, President Biden promised during his campaign and presidency that no one would pay any extra taxes that made under $400,000 a year. With the cost of living going up, $145,000 a year isn't even a high earner. So here again, we have another failed promise by politicians that are in essence breaking the backs of the American class, of the middle class in America, in this country, the backbone of this country. It's sickening. Texas Stock Exchange, the Dallas-based listing venue, taking aim at New York's dominance, is one step closer to being open. Now, all caps TXSE, Texas Stock Exchange, received approval from the Securities and Exchange Commission Tuesday to operate as an exchange, paving the way for the exchange to start listing shares next year. Companies including Tesla and Charles Schwab have reincorporated in Texas. Last year, the state introduced a new court system for corporate matters, aiming to compete with the long-established Delaware Court of Chancery. If y'all remember, this all came about last year when kangaroo courts in New York persecuted Trump and demanded huge restitutions. Billionaires like Kevin O'Leary went all over the news and social media saying New York broke the American brand and that he and others would never invest another dime in that state, moving businesses to more business favorable states so they didn't fall on the wrong side of the political spectrum and get prosecuted. There has been a large exodus of businesses from California, New York, and other blue states to Texas. Therefore, I believe the stock exchange will have a favorable outcome and put a hurting on New York. Warren Buffett, his Berkshire Hathaway, is in talks to buy Occidental Petroleum's petrochemical business for around $10 billion, according to people familiar with the matter. The deal, which would be Berkshire's largest since 2022, would come together within days, the people said. So here's a few other highlights. Nike reported earnings with a 62.9% drop in profit, but analysts remain cautiously optimistic. I don't know. That doesn't sound good to me. I don't know if it's tariffs. I don't know what's hurt them, but that does not sound good to me. Inflation remains steady, with the PCE index showing a 4% growth in August, reinforcing expectations of federal rate cuts. Stock markets rose slightly despite looming shutdown fears. Gold hit a record high. Y'all know I'm a big advocate for gold. Let's get to some tech news. In a notable development in artificial intelligence, Google DeepMind on Monday updated its frontier safety framework to address emerging risk associated with advanced AI models. The updated framework introduces two new categories: shutdown resistance and harmful manipulation, reflecting growing concerns over AI systems' autonomy and influence. A lot of people, a lot of people are concerned about advanced AI technology becoming like the science fiction movie Terminator. I have researched it and don't believe it'll happen, but it's definitely a scary prospect. Meta Connect 2025 unveiled Orion AR glasses with AI holograms and celebrity voiced assistants. They're priced at $499. California passed landmark AI safety laws, including the Neuro Rights Act protecting brainwave data. Synthesized raised $20 million to expand its AI-powered test automation platforms. And Bitcoin surged past $111,000 amid strong whale accumulation. Celebrity news and gossip. Jennifer Lopez says Ben Affleck divorce is, and this is in quotations, best thing that ever happened to me. Well, what else is she going to say? Benjamin Glaze, the ex-American Idol wannabe who kissed Katy Perry on the show, was slapped with a 25-year prison stint after his recent child porn conviction. TMC got the court documents and they spelled it out clearly. After grinding through 15 years behind bars, he's got to strap in, literally, because his 10-year suspended sentence comes with a wild list of requirements, including a penile. And y'all know how I am with pronouncing stuff, especially medical stuff, but I'm going to do the best I can. A penile plethysmograph test, a device that tracks arousal while he's shown everything from PG-rated content to flat-out filth. On top of enrolling in a sex offender program, he's also got to take the ABLE screen, a test that times how long his eyes linger on slides of kids versus adults. On a strictly personal note, as a parent, not measuring any of this against the Constitution, I believe as pedophiles, they should all have to succumb to this kind of testing. Sean Diddy Combs, sentenced to 4 years in prison for conviction on prostitution-related charges. The disgraced music mogul was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution in July, but acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering charges. Taylor Swift will appear in not 1, not 2, but 3 late-night shows this week. Jimmy Kimmel taunts Trump in a late-night team-up with Stephen Colbert and Seth Meyers, and they say, "Hi, Donald," when they're talking trash. A White House spokesperson replied, "Who cares?" And I say, why should they? You can't go against free speech, but who cares? Because his ratings have been declining for years. This was sad and sudden. Joshua Allen, the winner of So You Think You Can Dance Season 4, was struck and killed by a train. Kim Kardashian, Kris Jenner, Ray J, you defamed us, so take this lawsuit. Apparently they sued him. The Bachelor's Melissa Rycroft arrested for DWI. Bold and Beautiful featured a dramatic love triangle and a physical fight between Elektra and Luna over Will Spencer. Hope Logan reconsidered her engagement to Carter, reigniting feelings for Liam Spencer. Deacon Sharp leaned on Taylor Hayes as his marriage to Sheila unraveled. Let's get into some sports. The MLB playoffs are here. After a wild conclusion to the regular season, all 8 wildcard teams were in action Tuesday as the best-of-3 round began, with division rivalries dotting this year's matchup. The Los Angeles Dodgers versus the Cincinnati Reds, Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees, Chicago Chicago Cubs, and San Diego Padres, and Detroit Tigers and Cleveland Guardians. Now, Jazz Chisholm saves Yankee season after frustration over Game 1, benching. New York star infielder came through with 2 massive plays in Wednesday's Game 2 win over the Red Sox, channeling his emotions into motivation. Then Schittler, and I probably mispronounced that name. Y'all don't hold it against me. But anyway, y'all know who I'm talking about, you sports fans. Schittler shuts down Red Sox as Yankees advance to ALDS. Rookie Cam Schittler became the first pitcher in postseason history to go at least 8 scoreless innings with 12 plus strikeouts and no walks as the Yankees advanced to the ALDS with a 4-0 win over the Red Sox on Thursday night. The Las Vegas Aces needed 5 periods to dispatch the injury-riddled but relentless Indiana Fever to return to the WNBA Finals. The deeper and more experienced Aces received dominating and clutch performances from their stars for the 107-98 overtime victory on Tuesday night in Las Vegas to make it back to their third finals in 4 seasons. The Aces will begin their best-of-7 championship series against the Phoenix Mercury. Patrick Mahomes and company finally broke through for a big scoring day. Plus, the Seahawks, 49ers, and Rams have the NFC West looking like the NFL's toughest division. NFL Week 4 saw Tyreek Hill ruled out for the season due to torn ligaments. College football's top 25 reshuffled after Week 5, with Illinois narrowly beating. And MLB catchers broke home run records and fantasy baseball MVPs were named. New movies. The Smashing Machine, Dwayne Johnson, Emily Blunt, debuted in theaters October 3rd, chronicling MMA fighter Mark Keir's struggles. I have to check that out. My daughter's training to be an MMA fighter. My 11-year-old daughter. She trains 5 days a week. All of You, Imogen Poots, Brett Goldstein, premiered on Apple TV Plus, a romantic sci-fi tearjerker. Knock at the Door, Dave Bautista offered apocalyptic thrills on streaming platforms. Taylor Swift, the official release party of a Showgirl, launched as a 3-day AMC event. Not news, I've been given so much news. New TV shows and where to watch them. Wayward on Netflix, a chilling mystery series starring Toni Collette as a cult-like school leader. Hotel Castira is on Peacock. Jesse Williams stars as a fixer at a luxury Italian hotel. Chad Powers, Hulu. Glenn Powell plays a disguised quarterback trying to revive his career. Abbott Elementary Season 5 returned on ABC and Hulu. Monster, the Ed Gein story on Netflix, a true crime docuseries. Wednesday, Part 2 is on Netflix. I think that came out actually a couple weeks ago because we finished watching it, me and the little one. The Paper, Peacock, a mockumentary spinoff from The Office, and Task HBO, Mark Ruffalo leads a crime thriller from the creator of Mare of Easttown. Now for the pick of the week, y'all. The pick of the week. I just finished watching the show SEE, like you see something, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's and I was kind of on the ropes about watching it from the description, but it turned out to be a pretty good show. In a post-apocalyptic future, humanity has lost the ability to see, and society has adapted to life in darkness. But when twins are born with the mythic power of sight, their father must protect them and face political, religious, and tribal forces who see their gift as dangerous or heretical. It's got the actor on it that's playing the Chief of War right now on Apple Plus, Jason Momoa or something. I think he's Hawaiian, but he's real built. He plays a really good role, both shows. But I thoroughly enjoyed this show, and it can be found on Apple TV Plus. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, and to all y'all out there, stay safe. Don't forget to catch our Saturday morning show at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time and weekly interviews where truth meets every corner of the news.